Hey guys, it's Davin here at brewbits.com, and behind the camera as usual we've got James. Say hello, James. So today's been a day of brewing, and this is my third batch today, and these are some gooseberries that I picked a couple of weeks ago and kept them in the freezer. They're the red gooseberries and white gooseberries, so I thought we would make a nice gooseberry wine. So what am I going to need? I'm going to need some sugar. I've got 750 grams here of brewing sugar and 750 grams of normal supermarket granulated sugar. If I used all supermarket sugar, it tends to be quite a sweet wine, and I like it to be a lot less sweet and a little bit more dry and crisp. So in that case, we are using this Mangrove Jack's BV7 yeast, because that's going to give us a really, really nice flavour, and almost akin to a Chardonnay, but it's also got some of those fruity esters you would expect from a red wine because of the red gooseberries. Oak chips as well, going to go in there to oak it up a little bit. And then, of course, we're going to need our usuals, so something to brew it in. We've got our brewing bucket, we've got our demijohn, and then we've also got our Camden tablets and pectolase as our ingredients. Our hydrometer and trial jar so we can work out the alcohol content. Down here I've got a thermometer, long spoon, a siphon, and over here I've got my straining bag. Right, so gonna get straight to it. I need 8 pints of boiling water. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the kettle on, and then once my kettle's boiling, I'm gonna sterilize my bucket and my spoon. So here's my first 3 pints of boiling water. In there, my bucket, there you go. And in goes the 2 lots of sugars. So we've got the supermarket sugar, and we've got the brewing sugar. Oh, let's start some sipping it. Let's get rid of it. There we go. And I'm going to give that a good stir and get it all dissolved. And whilst that's dissolving, I'm going to put the kettle on again for another 3 pints. Cool. So that is the last 2 pints going in. So in my bucket, I've got all my sugar, and I've got my 8 pints of boiling water. Right, now over to the gooseberries a second, James, because as you've noticed, I've got my potato masher out. So the next thing to do is to mash our gooseberries to squish them all down. Mine's been in the freezer, so they squish really, really, really easily. Now get them, keep going until you've, ooh, you nearly popped out there. Keep going until you've got them all lovely and squished down. Right, that's them pretty all much. Oh, there's one there. Let's get that mashed down in. So now we're simply going to pop these into our boiling water. So as these are frozen, these are going to drop the temperature down of the boiling water a lot. And now we give this a good stir. Now, even though my gooseberries were pretty cool, this is still way too hot to do anything with. So on goes the lid, and this now needs to be left to cool down to 20 degrees C. The gooseberry wine now has cooled right down, so we're able to add in a couple of other bits and bobs. So the first thing here I've got is some pectolase, and there's lots of pectin in the gooseberries, and that's going to potentially cause us to have a hazy wine. And you can use between 1 to 2 teaspoons. I know there's quite a bit in gooseberries, so I'm giving a little bit extra just to make sure that we get rid of all that pectin, so we get a really nice clear wine. And the last thing I'm going to add right now is a Camden tablet, and I'm just going to crush that between 2 dessert spoons. And that's going to prevent any oxidization. Whoa, there we go, it's crushed now. That's going to prevent any oxidization, and it's also going to create a small amount of gas on the top called sulfur dioxide. And that is going to prevent getting any nasties and any bacteria getting to go on the wine before we pitch our yeast. Right, so this is going to take about 24 hours for the pectin to start doing its thing. So I'm going to pop the top on, like so, and now leave that in my warm place for the next 24 hours. The pectin And the Camden tablets have been doing their jobs. So now it's time for us to add our next bits. So I've got a bag here of oak chips. So I'm going to pop that open and pop that in. The whole bag. Perhaps not the whole bag, half the bag. There we go, about half the bag. Otherwise it could be a bit too oaky. And then I'm going to add the yeast, the BV7. And in that goes as well. Okay, now the BV7 yeast has actually got some nutrients in with it, but I'm going to add some more nutrients as well. I'm just going to add a teaspoon of yeast nutrient, and I need to now pop you on hold whilst I go and find my yeast nutrient. And I'm back. I found my pot of yeast nutrient. Now, yeast nutrient's got all of the bits and bobs in there that the yeast need to actually multiply, grow, and means that you get a really, really good, efficient fermentation, and hopefully as few off flavors as possible. So I've got my sterilized spoon, so I'm just going to give that a good stir in, like so. Rid of that. I'm going to pop my lid back on, but this time a little bit looser. And now this goes into my warm place, about 18 to 22 degrees C, for about 7 days. It's been a week since we started the gooseberry wine, and come on in, James, and have a look at this, because it has been bubbling away like anything. This is pretty normal. You can see a few bubbles popping out still every now and then, but we now need to take it off the gooseberries, and the way we're going to do that is over here. I've got my straining bag, which I have sterilized, and I've got a second bucket, and all I'm going to do, where I found the end. Where's the end? Come on, where's the opening? There's the opening. I'm going to put that across the top of my bucket, pop it down here, and gently I'm going to pour it from one bucket into the next, trying to splash it as little as possible. Go. Right, so don't need that anymore. Let's lift this up. And I don't need my little table, so let's get rid of that too. Okay, so in here with our gooseberries, look at the colour. Well, both colours of gooseberries are creating a lovely rosé. But there's so much juice, you can see that. Now, easiest way to do it is if you get underneath the bag and start squeezing from underneath. Obviously clean your hands thoroughly. If you've got any scratches or anything like that on your hand, oh, squirting around a bit, then just put some gloves on. And I don't mean gardening gloves, I mean like nitrile gloves, or surgeon's sort of gloves. And keep squeezing and squish all those gooseberries. And there's loads and loads and loads more coming out. Okay, and once there's about it, which is about there's no much more coming out now. Right, so let's get rid of that. Give my hands a little smell off. So I've now swapped to a demijohn, and I've got my simple siphon, and all I'm going to do, pop it in the top, give a good old suck, get the tube down in as far as we can, and then top up the demijohn until you reach literally the bottom of the neck. Just look at that colour. Now, I had a little bit extra, so I've put some into my wine bottles, because all we need to do now is pop in an airlock, which has got half filled in the bottom two bubbles with some sterilising solution. And now this goes back into my warm place for about the next 2 weeks to finish fermenting. I'm going to make 2 little mini airlocks for these by drilling out some corks and putting some bubblers in those as well, so that we can get as much out of this little batch as we can. Right, 2 weeks in my warm place to finish fermenting. Sometimes time is difficult to find, and with this one I've found it quite difficult to get the time to siphon it off after it had finished fermenting. So I did last time say it will be finished in about 2 weeks time. Well, it's been a little bit longer than that. It's actually been 8 weeks, and you can see it's cleared lovely. Look at the gorgeous color on this gooseberry wine of the mix of the green and red gooseberries. But as you can see down in the bottom, there's quite a bit of sediment, and so we're gonna try and get the wine off that sediment. So down here, I've got a sterilized bucket, and I've got my simple siphon. If you want to, you can use an auto siphon, but I'm just gonna use a simple siphon for ease of use. So in it goes. Quick suck. And let it flow, and try and take the siphon down with it, and gradually as it gets closer and closer and closer to the bottom, you can tilt the demijohn so that you can get as much wine out of there as possible without disturbing the sediment. I've taken a sample in my trial jar and popped the hydrometer in, and it's coming out at 0.992. Come on in, James, have a look at this, because it is gorgeous and clear. However, it's not as clear as you might think. It's still got some particulates floating around in it, and that will affect the flavour. So what I like to do at this stage is to filter it. And if I was just doing this 6-bottle batch here, I would probably use the Harris Vinbright Mark III filter with a Crystal Bite premium grade to polish it off. But I'm doing quite a few filterings today, siphonings, filterings. So I'm going to use this little baby, which is my Buon Vino mini jet filter, and it means it does it really, really quick. Okay, finished filtering the wine, and look how clear this is. This is amazingly clear. I can even see you through this wine. Yes, perfect. Okay, this is going to need a little bit of aging, so that it keeps its gorgeous color, and so that it doesn't kind of go off in any way or another. I'm going to use one of these. This is a Camden tablet, and so pop it between 2 dessert spoons. Just one will do. Oh. Give it a good crush. There we go, it's gone. And then pop that in, like so, and give it a good swirl. Now sometimes it takes a little bit of time for all these little bits to dissolve. That's fine, just pop the airlock back in, put it to one side and let them dissolve. And as soon as they've dissolved, we can get on to bottling. So once the Camden tablet is fully dissolved, we're ready to bottle. And here I've got 6 bottles, and I've got my simple siphon. I've taken the end off my simple siphon there, and in this end I've put a tap so that we can control the flow. So quite simply, that goes in there, come down here, good suck, and get the flow going. Try and send the wine down the outside of the bottle, and that'll help prevent splashing and help prevent infection. And then when it gets up to about the tip of my nail there, you're going to stop the flow. Okay, so now we're ready to pop our corks in our bottle, and in here in my saucepan I've got some sodium metabisulfate solution, or you can use a crushed Camden tablet and about 1/4 of a pint of water. Pop that on the hob, brought it up to the boil, pop the corks in, left the corks in there for a minute just to steam, and that means they go in really, really easily. So into my 2-handle corker, down to my table, which I've got a tablecloth on just to make life a little bit easier, and then a quick shoom, and it's in. Just got a couple more to go. So that's our gooseberry wine bottled. I've put on a simple label. You can put on something a little bit prettier. And up here, if you want to, you can put on some shrink caps to make them a little bit prettier. But now what we need to do is these need to be stood up now for the next 48 hours. That will allow the corks to set into place. And then after that, we need to lay them down so that the corks stay nice and moist. And I reckon these are going to be best kept for about 6 months in a nice cool place to bottle condition. Then pop one in the fridge, pop it open, and enjoy a nice glass of gooseberry wine. Now, if you've made a gooseberry wine, if you've used all white gooseberries or if you used all red gooseberries, let me know. If you've got any questions about how we did it or any comments you'd like to do, then down in the comments below, pop your comment in or ask your question and I will get back to you as quickly as I can. But for now, there we go. That's a really nice bottle of gooseberry wine made. And so yeah, in possibly a few months' time, we'll do a tasting video and let you know how it's come out. But for now, cheers, happy brewing, and see you next time.